Hello and welcome everyone to the Formula Racing League's Pure Sim Gear GT3 Masters. We're getting down to brass tacks in Season 10 now with just 2 rounds to go in this 7-race series. Tonight on the back of a brilliant race at Silverstone last week, the penultimate race of this season takes us to Spain in the beautiful region of Valencia to the Circuit de Valencia, also known as Circuit Ricardo Turomo. In the comms box, bringing you all the action tonight, and on behalf of 00 Raven Comms, it is myself, George Cook, and I am joined as usual by my partner in crime here at the GT3 Masters. It is Rob Barker. Good evening, Rob.
Good evening, George. Great to be back in the comms box once again this evening, and a warm welcome to all of those in chat and watching from wherever you are in the world. Looking forward to a great race today, George.
Yeah, always a pleasure to have you here, of course. So we have 4 classes racing in the GT3 Masters: Pro, Silver, Pro-Am and Am categories. Today, for your viewing pleasure, a large combined grid once again of the Pro and Silver categories here on the FRL Twitch channel. 5 rounds done and dusted, 2 remain in this season, Valencia today, and then we are off to the legendary Nürburgring for the season finale next week. So make sure you have your notifications on so you don't miss a moment of the action. We've had a brilliant contest for the top spots in the championship across all 4 categories, with prizes for the victors in each of those categories being a pair of Pure Sim Gear sim racing gloves. So a big thank you to the sponsors of this series, Pure Sim Gear. Check them out online for some great sim racing products. We will run you through the standings and the circuit in short order, but for now, over to you, Rob, for info on today's event and, of course, our weather report.
Well, today, or this evening, I should say, George, practice is almost complete. The drivers are rounding up their last few laps of the practice session, which has been an hour long. We will then enter a 20-minute qualifying session. 10 minutes each, 10 minutes for the pros, 10 minutes for the silvers, and then around 20 past the hour, which is approximately 26 minutes time, they will embark on the 1-hour race of Valencia. Mandatory pit stops will take place, and mandatory tyre change will also take place. 10 minutes pit window in this one, I believe, George. Just double check on that one. No pit window, so mandatory pit stops for all, and they will need to change tyres. Weather looking not too bad. On the warm side, 29 degrees, ambient 33 track temp at the moment, and no rain on the horizon at all. It's going to be a dry one.
Thank goodness for that, because rain here is not fun, having had dealt with that myself at one point. But always quite a hot circuit always quite hot at a circuit like this, as I'm sure you're well aware. Challenge for the drivers to be sure. So thank you for that information, Rob. That's good stuff. All right, over to our standings, and of course we're going to start with the pro category. Krzysztof Stachecki continues to keep the P1 spot in the standings on 182 points. He's 12 points clear of second place with a 3rd position finish at Silverstone. Grigory Ivanov, who was previously in 4th position in the standings, but now moves within spitting distance of that top spot after a P1 finish at Silverstone. Second now in the championship. This is a close one between these two, so we're going to be keeping an eye on this in the last 2 rounds of this season. Salva Enrubia takes 3rd in the standings on 151 points and 11 points clear of 4th place. Certainly someone to watch out for, potentially taking a P3 in the overall pro category. Max Leinard falls to 4th in the category behind Enrubia, not having the best outing at Silverstone, sadly, but still very much in it. Nico Velman, 5th place to Nico Velman in his Audi, I've actually typed audio, but Audi R8 LMS Evo 2. 10th position at Silverstone, but banking 132 points in total. Oleski Panchenko moves up to 6th in the standings. A brilliant drive at Silverstone, finishing 4th, helping the Ukrainian driver climb the standings. Benjamin Eck with the Lego AMG has fallen to 7th overall, finished 9th at Silverstone, currently on 127 points. Alex Zakdal, 8th at Silverstone, keeps his championship hopes alive, sitting now on 100 points and an 8th overall. James Cowley falls to 9th in the standings, finished 11th out at Silverstone, but only 1 point separates him from 8th. So all the play for between those two. And Melker Garby, who's rounding out our top 10, is making his first appearance in the top 10 on 91 points with a good 5th place finish last week. So, in terms of success ballast, top 5 always get the success ballast from the previous race, and that is going to be Ivanov with 25 kilos, Nopek with 20 kilos, Sachecki 15 kilos, Panchenko will be holding 10 kilos of success ballast, and Gardby will also hold 5 kilos. Now, of course, we do have pro and silver categories. So, Rob, over to you, mate, and let's go through the silver championship.
As the Silver Championship stands, it will be Omar Rolano Mesa going into this race in P1. But with a win from Pithaviers last time out, that means that gap is now down to 11 Pithaviers in P2 currently. The Brit Lewis Robinson, P3 for him, 140 points in P4. Andrei Fedotov holds just 2 point adrift of Robinson, so all to play for still in that battle. P5 will be Francois Tassin. P2 last time out, meaning there's a gap of 9 points. Nuno Gomez rounded up the top 10 at Silverstone, 119 points for the Portuguese driver. Craig Hill level on points with Dave Goodway in P8 and P9 respectively, 109 points between them. It will be Sten Hilhorst, 95 points for him in P9, but he will not be featuring in tonight's race. And rounding up the top 10, it will be the Ukrainian driver Mikos. And to the success ballast for the silver drivers, Louis Pithaviers, P2. Currently, he will take on 25 kilograms of ballast. Francois Tassin, currently P5 in the championship standings, 20 kilograms for him. Championship leader Omar Rolano Mesa will carry 15 kilogram of ballast. Julian Smith will carry 10, and Chris Jones will take 5.
Going to be interesting in the silver category, and things are heating up in both sides of the alley. So let's talk a little bit now about Circuit Ricardo Tormo. I'm trying to roll my R's as best I can. But track length here, 2.4 miles, 4 kilometers in total, founded in 1999 and unchanged since. 14 corners, 5 to the right, 9 to the left, some notable ones being turn 1, turn 12, very, very tricky to get right. 3 sectors here as always, and 61 feet, or for those of us who live in the normal realms, 18.5 meters of elevation. It's a truly beautiful flowing circuit. Almost no time spent in a straight line except for the main straight, every corner leading into the next with some incredibly tricky braking zones. It's going to make it a bit of a tricky one for those out on track. Notable one, of course, as I mentioned, turn 12, which has a massive sausage curb on the inside of the corner. It's a right-hander, very tricky to navigate. But as Rob said earlier, it is looking like a great day here in Spain, and the cloudy weather will actually help to keep those tyres in the right window. So just looking quickly at a bit more information here, real-world fastest lap for the GT3 class is a 1 minute 32.129 by Luca Engsler in an Audi R8 LMS GT3 Evo 2. That's quite a sentence for that car. It was actually done in 2023, the Valencia GT Winter Series. So that was actually the fastest one in the GT3 class. We're going to see lap times just a little bit faster than that, probably by the order of about 2, maybe 2.5 seconds. The fastest ever was in the, this is the race time, was GP2. So one of the only Formula Series to come here, a 1:21.244 by Andreas Zuber in the Dallara GP205. That was over back in 2006. And in the same year, Nelson Angelo PK in the same car for qualifying did a 1:17.886, 115 miles an hour, fastest speed, which is just unbelievably quick. Lots of stuff happening at this circuit, of course. We've got Grand Prix motorcycle racing since 1999, GT World Challenge Europe, which continues since 2021. We had the Formula E here, Valencia E-Prix at one point as well, DTM, World SBK, and the Le Mans Series actually came here in 2007. Now, of course, if you want to watch any of that, GT World Challenge Europe will be going there soon, 16th and 17th of September. They're going round 8 for the Fanatec GT Sprint Cup, so you can watch some real cars go around this real circuit, as well as here on the FRL channel.
Yeah, of course. George, just a couple of people in chat saying they're struggling to hear me. I don't know if you just want to check the levels on your end.
I will check the levels.
But of course, yes, this track is named after the Spanish two-time world champion Grand Prix motorcycle racer Ricardo Tormo. Don't ask me to roll my R's because I cannot do it to save my life. Unfortunately, we lost Ricardo Tormo, who died in 1998 of leukemia. The track capacity, 165,000 capacity, with some great views from all those grandstands in and around the circuit. And all but one corner of Valencia here is named after a famous MotoGP rider. If anybody can guess the name in chat, extra bonus points for you. I should give that a short second, but yeah, I will continue. Turn 14, named after Campos Racing founder Adrian Campos. Open wheel racing is few and far between here. Lewis Hamilton, though, however, took P2 in 2006 with that very race you were just talking about, George, with Team ART after qualifying P3, which was, of course, the GP2 series. And it was actually the debut race for the Dallara GP2 05, which Nelson Piquet on the day took the spoils. I wonder who will be taking the spoils this evening, George.
That's right. We'll have to wait and see. Of course, we do have our 20 minutes of qualifying coming up. It's split between the silver and the pro categories, 10 minutes apiece, starting with the silver category, who are out on track now. So we're going to jump over and check this all out. But the anticipation here is palpable. The concertina effect at the end of the track is already happening. And of course, apologies for keeping Rob a little bit lower in the in the audio. That's not intentional at all, but hopefully that has fixed things up. So if you guys could please let me know if the balance for Rob is now good, and if not, then I will continue to adjust it on the fly. Happy to do so. Got to make sure that both of us commentators are at equal volume. That's very, very important, because Rob, of course, providing us some amazing insights just before. I never knew that Hamilton was actually here in the GP2 series, so that must have been a little bit earlier on in his career, I assume, Rob.
Yeah, very, very early on in the career. Yeah, qualified P3 and gained one position during the race. I can't say I remember the race, I didn't watch it, but yeah, one position up for him, but very early with Nelson Piquet Jr. Obviously a very, very quick driver is Nelson Piquet as well. I think they shared quite a healthy F1 career. Obviously Lewis Hamilton still continues to drive, as many of you will be aware. Whether you decide he's a 7-time or 8-time world champion, I'll leave that one for you to discuss.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, we don't want to get into the details of the political argument that is Abu Dhabi 2021. Although I will always remember the little slide into the last corner that Max Verstappen did. I actually referenced that yesterday on the victory lap for the Team Rocket, Jenson Button's esports team, or the esports wing of his Team Rocket. And they did the exact same thing at the end of the race, so they're obviously pretty stoked, and I'm sure Max was at the time as well. Anyway, we won't get too far into that. We've got some laps coming in now. Tassin in the 128 Ferrari has just posted the top time for silver. It's a 131.8. So not a bad time there at all. We've got a few in the background who are coming through. Kuzmenko has just gone fastest as well. So, and Rolando Mesa straight to the top. So our championship leader in silver class, taking pole position as it stands right now. That's a pretty nice little lap, a 131.600.
Yeah, there's one to watch out for this evening, George, in the silver category. We do have a debutant driver this evening in Salvo Nibala, currently registering P38, hasn't raced yet, and as I speak of him, puts it on pole. Very, very quick in practice was Nibali, and he was putting some excellent times in, some of them into the 130. So one to watch in the silver categories this evening.
Certainly is, and no livery, unfortunately, on this car, but that's a nice little baby blue colour. It's the same colour as the house that I rent, so that's very nice, actually. I like the wheel covers as well. Certainly one to see and see what happens. The McLaren, of course, traditionally quite a strong car. In fact, actually, I'm just keeping an eye here because Nibali is already up. Again, Peter Veers, who's been a regular in the silver class, to the top 3. Now takes pole with a 131.075, but 0.3 of a second Nibali has found so far on track. So this could be a brilliant lap because he's about 0.327 of a second behind that pole lap from Pithaviers. Yesterday in the sprint series, we did see quite a number, or the day before I should say, we did see quite a number of cars get up into the very, very low 130s, with one getting into a 129, which was absolutely unreal. A bit of blue flag traffic happening behind here. Let's keep an eye on Nibali as he comes across the line. Oh, he's invalidated. Oh dear.
That's unfortunate. Yeah, 5 drivers in the practice session had already broken into the 130s, and I can read them out for you. Gardby, currently P10 in the pro category, he was in the 130s. As for mentioned, Salvo Nibali, P38 in the silver, he was in the 130s. Gregory Ivanov, currently P2 in the pro standings, also in the 130s. The legendary livery of that AMG of Benjamin Air, currently P7, he was also in the 130s. And Panchenko, Pithaviers just outside of the 130s in the practice, but going reasonably well so far, but not threatening any of those top times as of yet. Oh no, he's 1:31.0. He's actually pole currently, so we're waiting for a few more drivers to make their way around. Longdon just pops in a P3 time of a 1:31.2. That promotes him up into P3 in the silver category. Got about 3.5 minutes left of the allotted time for the silver drivers before the pros come out, as Jones improves his lap time to 1:32.5. That's P9 for him. Robinson 1:32.7, that will be P11 for him in the number 336 BMW.
Yeah, they're all improving out on track for the most part, and just on board now with Nibali, who's about to come across the line, is finding time everywhere, 0.45 a second up, and that is a good enough for pole position. It's our first 1:30, in this case a 0.942 for Nibali in the silver class. That's a very, very good time. There's not a lot between it though, only 0.133 of a second, and Pithaviers was previously going a little bit faster than that, has lost a bit of time on that previous lap. They will get a couple more laps in this session. Of course, lap times averaging around 1:30, so there is plenty of time for them to get out and get another lap done. And we've got an improving Jadubal at the moment as well. Back here, nearly found 0.8 of a second in the sector 2. So currently going to be moving potentially quite far up the grid. Did a 1:32.4. So we'll need to find a little bit of extra time from that. I believe we've just seen Nibali go off the track as well. So it's all to play for currently. And so far, at this exact moment, no one actually improving out on track. So I suspect all just getting ready for the next lap, and my eyes at the moment will be solidly on Pithaviers and whether or not he can pip Nibali for that top spot in silver class.
Yeah, not many shakers and movers. Nykänen has popped his 909 McLaren up to P8 with a 1:32.4. That is a massively improved lap by Jadabal. He pops a 1:31.5. That's P5 for him. And also a name that I'm not quite familiar with, George. I don't think we've seen Jadabal racing so far this season. So maybe another first timer, as is Nibali, currently P1. So definitely putting the lap times down, 0.5 of a second, just over 5.5 of a second to that pole time, current pole time of 1:30.9. Potter, however, in the 91 Aston Martin, improves his lap time, 1:32.4 for him. P12 he goes, as Hill with a 1:31.8 improves his time, now currently P8 in the 888 Lamborghini. Not long left now, George. Couple of laps, maybe one more hot lap each. If they are on a lap, they will get to finish it, but that will be about it.
That's right, and just keeping an eye here on Longdon, who's found a 2.5 of a second. That will be good enough, maybe for P1, no. Just good enough though for P2, and slides into the 130s, only 0.02 of a second behind Nibali. That was incredibly close. But another improver here, Rolando Mesa, who we've seen doing some incredible stuff in the silver category, currently leading our championship in silver class. Has also found a little bit of time, just staying on board here. It's a good exit through Campos. Not too bad, found a little bit of time on the exit, 0.2 of a second or just under. It's not going to be good enough for pole, but that will be good enough for P6, so it doesn't improve at all, unfortunately. And that will be it for his qualifying, sadly. No others on track, as far as I can see, Rob, improving. A little bit of traffic here for Pithaviers, so not going to be finding the time he necessarily wanted to find. Of course, you're not allowed to overtake if someone is on a valid lap in front in this FRL league, which is a very sensible rule. Rob and I were actually discussing this just before.
Yeah, we were indeed. Yeah, qualifying is, you do need to be able to get your lap down, and you shouldn't be compromising other drivers that are in front. So I'm led to believe that will, unless they are currently on a lap, I do believe that will be the last lap of the silver category, which means Nibali will take P1, Longdon P2, Pithaviers P3, Tassin P4, Jadubal will be in P5, championship leader Omar Rolano Mesa will start P6. Obviously though, George, the top times there, the 130s, some of the pro drivers weren't getting into the 130, so this is going to be a very mixed up grid, as we've seen a couple of times this season already. The silver drivers really putting in some excellent performances and getting right amongst those pro drivers.
Yeah, absolutely spot on. And the likes of Nibali, who we haven't seen in the GT3 Masters before, so on debut, to take that time, which by the way was improved to a 130.862, as you mentioned. Honestly, that is a brilliant time, and you know, that's within a second of what we're going to see as the top times from the pro drivers. So very impressive from Nibali. That could quite easily become a promotion to pro category if that run of form continues in the last 2 rounds of this season. Quick note there that Julian Smith managed to get himself up into P8 just at the end of the qualifying session, and now the pro drivers are in fact out on track. So we will be keeping an eye on the championship leaders in pro class. So Ivanov and Stachecki, who are P1, P2 currently, and right on board now with Rodriguez, who's had, I would say, a pretty mixed season overall, but we've seen some good performances here from the McLarens at this particular circuit. So if you're in a McLaren today, I think you fancy your chances.
It does look strong, the McLaren here. So just while the drivers are working their way on their outlap, I will just take a quick look at chat. We've got a number of comments and a number of people watching, which is absolutely amazing to see. Stratos, welcome in. We've got Philippe George in chat as well. Welcome in. Alan Brown, very own in the chat as well. Uber Beast, welcome in. Irish Friends Ghosty is here. Welcome in, and I hope you enjoy the commentary and the race this evening, Ghosty. MDMB, drum bass DJ, absolutely fantastic to see him here. Quite a few. Bill Mobo's in chat as well. Welcome in, and thank you for confirming that the audio is absolutely fine, Bill. Just what we love to hear. Drivers on there, just about starting their first laps.
That's right. We've just had a first lap now for Grigory Ivanov, who's come through with a 131.375. So not the times that we would have expected maybe initially, but it'll take them a couple of laps just to get the tyres up to temperature. Of course, it is pretty cloudy out there on track currently. I don't think we're much more than 26 or 27 degrees on track temperature as well. So it is a little bit cooler out there, 5:13 p.m. in the race. That's a good lap there from Gardby. Yeah, that's beautiful. A 130.902 goes P2 overall, and there's Nopek comes through now with a 131.007, the 007 number, lighting up our screens. Good stuff there. That does bode well for him later in this qualifying. But so far, Panchenko P10, Linar P11, Vespilatov P12, Benjamin Eck only able to get to P14 out on grid. We've got a purple time in sector 2 here from Grigory Ivanov. He's found 0.6 of a second, Rob. That could be good enough to put him on pole position.
Yeah, he's just going to keep it up through the remaining part of the lap. It is quite tight twisted, a couple of sharp, tight corners to manoeuvre. But if you can keep up that early lead in the lap and get through to the end, that should be pole. Nopek improving his time a little bit, so he was gone into P4, and Ivanov pops it onto P1, George, of 130.3 for nearly 5/10 to the good over Nibali's time. Artemenko into P13 as Rodriguez pops himself into P10. and Lionheart to P5. Oh, absolutely, a lot of movement up and down the grid as these lap times are very quickly coming down. We already have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 drivers into the 130s. So the pace has definitely picked up since practice, and that's Guard being to P2.
Yeah, top stuff, and even off there, that very dominant lap time, 130.3, is still, 3/10 clear of Garby, even though Garby, that's a very impressive time from him. Still, as you can see, the difference to Nibali in the silver class, not a lot. Garby is already finding extra time out on track with that McLaren, but it's very impressive to see the Ferrari being this competitive on the grid. Usually this really is the McLaren track. It's definitely dominant here. It's definitely the car to be in today. But nonetheless, some really impressive times being put out. Garby is finding time everywhere. Already, or nearly found 0.2 of a second. He's lost that, unfortunately, on exit out of Nito. It's turn 6, sadly, so he'll have to find that time up elsewhere. Finds it on braking, though, into turn 8, and then loses it on exit again. This is typical of this track, sadly. You will run nice and easy into a corner, go a little bit deep, and he's got a bit of traffic ahead as well, so that definitely does not help. And we've got Ivanov as well. He's already found time on turn 1. We just saw before. Oh, no, he has not, because he's run wide at turn 1. One of the trickiest corners to stay on track limits, because you want to be using every millimeter of that green runoff area. 3.5 minutes to go in this qualifying qualifying session, I should say. Panchenko has gone up to P3 now, so 130.742, equal time, down to the thousandths of a second with then Rubia, who's also found time, as you can see out on screen. So those two are literally joined at the hip, because they've got 0 seconds, 0.000 seconds separating them. Panchenko finding a little bit of time on track now.
Hey, Nopek's just promoted himself into P3. Yeah, Panchenko and Irubi with that exact lap time. We don't see it very often. They crossed the line almost at the same time as well. So, yeah, identical times from them. Nopek currently P3, so a fantastic lap from him with a 1:30.7. I should say 7.32, because the guys behind are a 7.42, so just 1/1000th of a second between P3 to P5. A couple of tenths back now is Nibali of the silver category, but still P6, P1 in category, P6 overall. That will be a fantastic lap, fantastic qualifying for him, and I'm sure he'll be more than happy with that. Shock at the moment for me, though, is Ivanov in P1 and championship leader. Nowhere to be seen.
Yeah, that's right, actually. Good point, because I can't see him out on grid at the moment. He's just sitting in the pits currently, and that will mean that he'll start down the back of the grid of both pro and silver categories. That's definitely not the way that you want to be, gaining points. Very difficult to drive and do overtakes in this lap. We've just been on board with Garby, who unfortunately has invalidated what was a very, very good lap there. And Ivanov out the front is finding time. So Ivanov is the one in P2 at the moment, as I mentioned before, in spitting distance of the lead of the championship. And if Stachecki does not go and set a lap time out there for this race, it will be a very, very difficult thing for Stachecki to come back into a good point scoring position and continue to challenge Ivanov, who's on a real run at the moment. He got first place in Kyalami, he got first place in Silverstone. And if he continues this run of good form, he'll probably get first place here at Valencia. It's a tricky track to overtake, and if Ivanov gets any kind of speed and distance out the front of the track, then he will be running away with things. But yes, this will be quite interesting. So good spot there by Upside Mine as well. He mentions it as well. Omer Moore, welcome into chat. Good to have you all here. Of course, if anyone has got any questions, do feel free to ask in chat. We're happy to engage. Leinard here in this beautiful Mad Panda esports race. This is the Panda esports race, and this is not the full Panda car, which we have seen previously in this series. No, we've seen it recently, haven't we?
No, yeah, my apologies on missing that championship leader quali ban. I didn't see why that was picked up. Okay, so that will be the reason why he's nowhere to be seen. He was going very well in practice early on. So yeah, with the quali ban, that would explain it, which does give Pithaveers the advantage. Currently sat in P12 in the silver category, but if there's a quali ban from Mesa, that means he will start quite the ways back and will have his work cut out. There are currently 37 drivers on track. but 5 of them haven't set time. So maybe there's a couple of more bits and bobs going there. Stuchecki not set a time yet, George.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so I mean, if Stuchecki, who is the championship leader in the pro category, has a qualifying ban, then of course he's not allowed out on circuit. I do wonder.
Are they both not allowed? Because
Well,
both
we did see the
pole
silver category go
sisters?
out, so that should be
Yeah,
all good there. But yeah, if Stuchecki is currently leading the championship and has a qualifying ban, then that will
that would explain.
explain why he's not going out on circuit. So I wonder if that's just down to points in terms of penalty points that were gained throughout the season. Maybe just getting a few too many. Of course, we can go and we'll go and check some of that out as well. Make sure that we get that up to date. So thank you for pointing that out, Upside Mind. That is much appreciated. We do have a lot of things to look out for. But yeah, that is qualifying over for the majority on the grid. They'll be returning to the pits now. And only the 272 car, the 51 car, Benjamin Eck will come across the line. He's not found any time. No, he's invalidated his lap, stepped on some Lego during that lap. The rest are back in the pits. The 200 car comes across the line. No improvement there. Domokos Kiss down in 15th position, just sitting at the edge of the garage there. So 51 cars being told to return to the garage as well, which is interesting. Nonetheless, that is going to be our qualifying. So your top 10 at the moment, Ivanov and Rubia, Gardby, Nopek, Panchenko, Leinard, all from pro category, the top 6. Nibali takes the top in the silver category, P7 overall. Artemenko, P8 for the pro category. Longdon, P9 for the pro category. And Cowley for the pro category, rounding out your top 10. So confirmed there by Upside Mind, yes, penalty points. So that is super, super unlucky for our championship leader. He's got a lot of work to do now, sadly, to make it back to the top positions in this race in what is a very, very tricky place to do some overtaking. And yeah, we'll go through our grid walk as usual. We'll let this run through as it stands right now. I'll make sure I've got all my correct broadcasting tools on, because that always does help. But yes, your grid, as you can see, standing here, some nice liveries on track as well. Currently optimum track conditions. Bit cloudy, of course. Rob, as you mentioned earlier, 28 degrees ambient, 30 degrees on track. Anything we should be looking out for, Rob? I think there's going to be a few interesting battles on track today.
Yeah, as mentioned in the beginning of the broadcast, this circuit was designed for MotoGP and the bike sort of category of racing. It has held MotoGP and some other bike categories. It's very, very difficult to pass here in my findings and watching races here. Drivers are going to have to be super careful on a couple of the corners. Track limits can be quite punishing. As one you've mentioned, you want to use as much of the runoff area in the exit of turn 1, but it is very easy to run it just that little bit too far and pick up a penalty. It's tight, it's twisty, there's some heavy braking zones. It can be difficult to get past, so hopefully we can get a few clean laps at the start. It's an hour-long race. You don't have to win it in the first lap, as it looks like the number 406 of Ivanov starts to lead the drivers round for their sighting lap. So not long to go and we will be underway for this race.
That's right. So, of course, we've got the full formation lap, so everyone's got a chance to warm up their tyres, get those brakes into the zone. And, yeah, it's as you said, we hope that we have our first couple of laps that are nice and clean and smooth. But that turn 1, everyone will still be side by side. I've seen a bit of chaos there in previous races, and races that I've done, in fact, at this track. Can be very, very tricky to get away properly. The 187 car, I'm just noticing, who is, I'm just going to try and find that, but they're currently... Artemenko currently sitting in the pit lane, so must have forgotten to hit drive or has been forced by penalty points to start from the pit lane. Not really the right place to start from, unfortunately, is it, Rob?
Yeah, that's going to put you straight to the back of the grid, unfortunately. So I'm not sure why Artemenko is in the pits. Let's just have a look at his standings at the moment.
And while you're doing that, quick thank you to Upside Mind, who's just subscribed to the channel with Prime subscription. So a big thank you to Upside Mind Oz. Thank you very much for the subscription on the FRL TV channel. Really appreciate that. Really appreciate you.
Yeah, it's amazing. The support from the subscription, I believe, does go back into the league as well in terms of prize funds and things like that. So I think that will be absolutely Yeah, I think they'll be very welcomed by the FRL team. They do a phenomenal job of putting these races on across all different platforms as well. So thank you very much for your subscription. Yeah, I can't see why Artemenko is in the pit. He's currently sat, George. He's P22 in the standings, but joint with Javier Gonzalez in P21 on 41 points. And there's not much gap, there's not much movement around in those points as well. It's only a couple of points in between. It's all very close. So those points are going to be extremely missed if he does have to start at the back.
Yeah, that's right. I get the feeling that might have been a I forgot to click the drive button, which does occasionally happen even to the best of drivers. And now we are lining up side by side for the beginning of this race. Through Campos they go, and they'll go down onto the main pit straight. Of course, as we mentioned before, there is a mandatory tyre stop here, but no refueling is allowed. We're here at the penultimate race of the season, so it's round 6 here at Valencia. We're going to be going green, green, green very shortly, as Ivanov will lead us away in the Pure Sim Gear GT3 Masters for round 6. We've green, drive-through penalty for speeding on the start for the 69 car, but a good start from the top 5 and 6. Ivanov will have the inside line. Garbi goes a little bit defensive on Panchenko, who's right behind him, and Rubia has a great start here, might be looking up the inside into turn 2. Ivanov goes very, very defensive at the start of this race, a sensible thing to be doing. Leinard has gone up onto the 3rd position here, so from 6th to 3rd in the space of 2 corners. We've had a bit of an issue down the grid as well, involving the 5-through-1 car. Little bit of a touch there. Nopek, unfortunately, it gets a little bit of a tag there. He's done that before. Garbi is also going side by side with the 99 McLaren, so brilliant stuff so far. But Leinard up into 3rd position, great stuff. Good lead away from Ivanov, and we'll have in Rubia in the Lamborghini in tow as it stands right now. Benjamin Eck has also moved up into P6, is also going for a little bit of a move on Garbi, who obviously got a bit sideways through turn 4, 5 and 6, but will have a good run away as they go through turn 8 down to turn 9 and 10. Excellent start from them. Garbi will hold on to the position. Nopek now under pressure from Panchenko in the 39 car. Excuse me, the 39 car. And that battle will have to end, because that corner there, turn 12, is one you do not want to be going side by side in. So it is Ivanov from Invrubia, from Leinard, from Nopek, from Panchenko, from Garbi, from Eck. Then Nibali has maintained a pretty decent position there. Has actually just done an overtake. Benjamin Eck's had a massive problem. Benjamin Eck is absolutely gone on track, unfortunately. So we will go and take a quick look at the replay on that momentarily, but a good opening lap from our top 3.
Yeah, unfortunate for Benjamin Eck there. Just to confirm a few things at the start of the race, the speeding at the start lineup was for the number 69 Mercedes, and that is Petrovic. I think he lost it, or he lost control of the car. It did appear to be going backwards towards the latter part of the lap. He did then try to catch up with the pack, which obviously gave him the speeding under the green light condition. He did immediately pit and got back out on track, and our pit lane starter, which was Artemenko, has joined the race. So yeah, I think you were correct on the fact that he didn't press the drive button in time, but he's back on, and he is currently in P29, so he's gone backwards as we suggested, but yeah, he's racing thankfully. And we have the 314 car, which is Fedotov, that is in the pit lane already, and has been since lap 1.
Oh dear, so that might be a bit of a big issue there. Just look at the replay now for Benjamin Eck, and let's see what happened to him in the first part of this race. Looks all good through turn 12, quite smooth there. So what's happened to him? Something at the last corner, I believe, for the Lego Mercedes. He must have tripped over. Oh dear, that's Nibali. That's Nibali, sorry. Nibali has gone and taken the rear of Benjamin Eck, and Nibali must have fallen down as well. Yes, has, and fallen down to P14. So that will be an invoice for the steward's office to deal with. Nopek is right on the back of Leinard now. The challenge for the P3 position in this race, the podium positions, of course. And Nopek here, of course, Nopek and Leinard both raced together. In fact, a couple of days ago in the sprint series too. So fastest lap now being set by Ivanov, a 1:31.195 litres away. Cowley also getting very close. A good start from him, but now it's all pro drivers in the top 10, Rob. So those silver drivers, and Nibali unfortunately making that mistake into turn 14, turning around Benjamin Eck.
Yeah, it's not a nice one to have happened so early in the race for Benjamin Eck, and also for the silver category as well. We knew that he had some excellent pace in the practice and the qualifying, but we'll go backwards, and I imagine George as well picked up a little bit of damage as well. It's quite a big contact. Just yeah, unfortunate for the drivers and one for the stewards. Ivanov and then Rubia out in P1 and 2 are gapping about 5/10 of a second per lap. Already pulled a bit of a gap, about 2 seconds to Lionard in P3, Nopek in P4, a couple of seconds further back Penchenko, Gnabi, Rodriguez and Cowley for your top 10.
That's right.
That was odd. My PlayStation 4 has decided to turn itself on behind me. So I'm just going to go and shut that up.
Yeah, good plan. So you've got ghosts in the system. Nonetheless, on board now with Benjamin Eck in his battle to get back up the positions. Of course, that big contact got Nibali now in tow as well. We've got a whole bunch of battles going on across the grid. Cowley's getting very, very close to the back of Rodriguez at this stage, a little bit further up the grid in P8, but the grid at the moment a little bit spread out. Got three very clear battle packs starting to evolve here at Valencia today. One at the front, and everyone's moving away. I believe that's the top 8 or 9 cars just starting to run away with things. Our race leader at the moment is just at another fastest lap, so Ivanov is starting to move away with things, but Rubia is currently still holding on in that Lamborghini, and that's very, very important for Rubia, and Ivanov here will be absolutely stoked. Now, just looking around as well, we've just had another big issue here, and that is Simone Saberla there for FMP Italia has unfortunately run off the track. There's James Williams in the Big Pig, and we just had a bit of a moment before we were looking on board with the battle for P27, Chris Jones, and those in toast to Czechia, by the way, going from last currently up into P19 currently, on the back now of Alan Brown in the BMW. Looks like he's holding a bit of damage on both sides of his car, so that could be working against him. Any damage to the McLaren will not be particularly favorable. Just had a move here by Bespilatov on Longden, on Reed Rodriguez, my fault. So Bespilatov in the Audi, the 808 car moves up into P8. Lionard has just been overtaken by Nopek, so they're going to go side by side into turn 1. Very close to having contact there, but Lionard sensibly has to back out, and Nopek will currently secure P3 in the race here. So nice move there by the McLaren of Nopek. The 48 car moves up to P3. The 172 Lamborghini moves back into P4 and will now be under pressure from Penchenko in the 39 car. Good little battle evolving here. Ivanov starting to run away with it though.
Yeah, Ivanov's got his foot down now, 131.377 lap time rate, and Rubia almost matching in pace for pace, just 1,000th of a second. And those two drivers have pulled away from that pack there, which is P3, 4 and 5 of Nopek, Lionard and Penchenko. Very, very tight between those three at the minute. Looks like there's another possible move being made at the moment. Just flicking down the order, we've got a close battle also brewing between championship leader in the silvers, which is Rolano Meza, and Benjamin Eck just behind, with Nibali, the debutant for the silver, just behind them as well. So that's P14 through 16. That looks to be a battle heating up. Pithaviers right behind that battle as well. So want to keep an eye on for the time being.
That's right, yes. Benjamin Eck has been looking pretty fierce, obviously on a bit of a recovery drive now after that contact, and will still be maybe a little bit anxious, especially into turn 14, which is where they're going now. I've just seen another big contact happen here. Oh, a huge, huge pile-up here. Multiple cars involved there at turn 9. Don't quite know what's happened there. We will try and get subsequent contact has happened, and Alan Brown is all sorts of caught up in that. As well as James Williams too. So a whole bunch of cars getting involved in that one, sadly. That is not ideal at all. And we'll try and get a replay of that if we possibly can. But at this stage, no replay available. So once we do, we'll get that. Oh, here we go. So let's see what happened here. So it looks like the 55 car, McLaren has hit, BMW, and the BMW of, not Alan Brown there, but another BMW, has come back onto the track and nearly taken out the Pink Pig of the 41 car of James Williams, and then three-way they go. That is very close to being an even bigger incident. Luckily for them, nothing more has come of it. But crikey, that was an interesting one, Rob.
Yeah, it was all a bit chaotic through that section. Then I do believe it was the second BMW was the BMW of Robinson, the 336. But the biggest losers of them that incident was indeed Thompson and Brown in the 738 BMW. They went back numerous places after that unfortunate incident now involving quite a few cars.
That's right, and the mid-pack battle continues. There's 3 or 4 big battle packs evolving on this track. Benjamin Eck still involved in a lot of it. Currently up into P15 now, on board with Tassin, Francois Tassin in the 128 car. Domikos Kiss in tow in that Audi. And it's a bit odd to see Domikos Kiss outside of the top 10. He's been extremely quick in a lot of these races. Nibali now moves back ahead of Pither Veers, so the Silver Championship continues to hot up. Currently just running through it, your silver top 3. Longdon currently leading the Silver Championship in the McLaren. Tassin behind him about 0.8 of a second will take P2 in the silver standings at the moment in the race. And then P3, Hill, who's actually got Rolando Mesa, who is our championship leader in the standings, following in close behind the top 3. Running away with things, Ivanov has continued to set fastest laps in Rubia, and then Nopek, so those top 3 are solidifying their position in the top 3 of this race. Leinart's fallen off the back of that a little bit and is still under pressure, quite a lot of pressure from Panchenko, so we'll keep an eye on that battle as we go through. But this right now has been an incredibly close battle for the top 10 position.
Yeah, it's super close actually, and
that's big contact there. Pither Veers has been sent round as well. Oh dear.
Yeah, I was just looking at the footage there. That did not look very pleasant. Yeah, that didn't look very pleasant at all. Was it completely outbraked himself there?
Well, let's keep an eye on it.
Yeah, just coming down into the. Oh, okay, yeah.
So, well, that was Stachecki there, who got into the rear of Pither Veers and unfortunately sent him round. So that's unfortunately maybe a little sign of over-eagerness there from the Pro Championship leader, who of course will be running on track quite a bit faster than some of these cars out there. This is a bit of a move here from Benjamin Eck on the outside into turn 2. Does make it stick, so that's a great move on the 888 Lamborghini of Hill. Makes it stick. Lovely stuff there from Benjamin Eck, and he's making some progress up the field after that early contact. Oh, but
what a move from Benjamin.
Dear. Yeah, well, sorry to interrupt again, Rob, but we're going to have to go to another replay. Unfortunately, that does still involve Stachecki, so take us through this one.
Yeah, so Benjamin Eck with that absolutely phenomenal move around the outside. Stachecki is catching up to, I do believe that is the, I can't see the number there, George, but he's sent one up the inside. He just tags the back of the car and sends himself back around again. It's all a bit too eager. That's a couple of incidents now. It's an hour-long race, and I do think that's a couple of incidents now that could have been completely avoided there, George.
Couldn't agree more, and that was Nibali and Hill. So Hill was the one that got tagged by Stachecki, and Nibali was caught up in that as well. So yes, I hate to say it, but unfortunately I do agree. Maybe just a bit over eager there from Stachecki. As you said, an hour-long race, so got plenty of time to make up these positions. It's tricky as a driver who is obviously very, very quick to make these safe overtakes if you're going at absolute maximum pace. But that was almost an attempt for 2 for 1 in there that just did not work out. We've got Lewis Robinson, who's around. That's the 336 BMW once again having issues. Careful on the rejoin here. James Williams takes avoiding action, sensibly so. There's Saberla coming through on the inside. Very, very sensible stuff there. But unfortunately, I have to say this for Stachecki, but getting a qualifying ban for penalty points, that could be coming his way once again for the next race, which will be the last race of the season. I think some of these moves and the performance so far could be having significant ramifications for his chances to take the victory in the championship standings in Pro category.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. So it is a long race, currently doing extremely well in the Pro category as well. That one may have just hurt him a little bit more than he would have liked. Yeah, 182 points at the top of the leaderboards in the Pro. Christoph Stachecki, 182 points. And our race leader at the moment, which is Grigory Ivanov, 170 points. It's 12 points different. And I think, yeah, I think that he's driving too hard. Trying to get back to the front. He understands he is the championship leader. He will know he's the championship leader, and he will be wanting to make as many moves as he can, as early as he can. But yeah, just a little bit too eager for me, and I think the stewards will be interested in those couple of incidents.
They certainly will. Domokos Kiss here has just executed a beautiful overtake on Rodriguez in the last part of the circuit. Went defensive on the main straight, but has opened up the inside line into turn 2, and Rodriguez will take the position back. We've got Rolando Mesa, our championship leader for silver category, in tow with Benjamin Eck as well. So this is rapidly turning into a beautiful four-way battle once again between these drivers. Tassin is a little bit further up the road, maybe about 2 or 3 seconds up the road at this stage, holding on to P10 in the race. But these four starting to have an absolutely mega battle on track. Brilliant racing by Domokos Kiss and Rodriguez. Very, very respectful between the two. And keeping an eye too on the top here, P5, Pedchenko in the 39 car, putting all sorts of pressure on the back of Leinard. And I think they're going to be running into some blue flag traffic at some point, with the leader now coming around the last corner and the last car on circuit going around the first corner. And that is going to be a move up the inside there for Pedchenko. Just sticks a little nose in there, but Leinard sensibly holds his nerve, goes round the outside and continues to maintain that position. They've got Garby in tow here, so this is a good little battle brewing for P4 currently.
Yeah, I've just made my way down to the pit lane, George. Alan Brown into the pits, obviously to get some of that damaged repair on that ninth lap incident, which unfortunately has forced him into the pits. Unsure whether he'll be returning to track, but Lewis Robinson, also in the number 336, has pitted, made some repairs out back on track, and the only other driver in the pits and doesn't look like he'll be leaving is Petrovic at the moment. Started in pit lane, completed 7 laps and is back in the pits, and I think that is evening for him.
Oh dear, so maybe potentially some issues with the car, just too much damage, can't justify the continued running of the car at this stage, and the battle continues with Leinard, Pedchenko and Garby. Some brilliant racing, that's very close for Pedchenko on the back of Leinard. Brilliant, brilliant respectful racing from these three at the moment as they go through turn 9, coming up into turn 10 and 11 at this stage. Garby holding onto the back of these chaps very, very nicely. Just looking down the grid, Tassin is on the back of Longden as well, so we'll have a little look at that battle when we get an opportunity. But this three-way battle for the top is starting to heat out. Got about, I'd say about 13 minutes until we see a mix-up of the grid in terms of pit stops, so those who are pitting early might be on a slightly alternative strategy, Rob.
Yeah, I think that the ones that have boxed so far were all caught up in incidents early on, so I think there'll be repair pit stops, and will be forced to go long, extra long on the last stint. Although we did see in the last 6-minute race that we broadcast on, there were a few people that did pit a lot earlier and did manage to make the end of the race, although the tyres were starting to really struggle towards the end. The majority of the drivers will pit around the midway point, and we didn't see too many drivers going long on the first stint, so I think the optimal pit strategy is a 50-50, as Stachecki is now in the pits after 11 laps, George, as is Sickup. Stan Sickup also in the pits in the number 6. So they've done 11 laps apiece and they have decided to box.
Interesting. It could be the strategy that Stachecki is looking at all of this and going, well, I just need some clean air. Wow, that was a big oversteer moment from Garby, well handled into turn 8. But it could be that they're just looking to try and find that clean air out on track, which is a very sensible thing to be looking at. But with the performance that Stachecki's put on so far, I suspect we've got some penalties coming his way in short order. No penalties as far as I can see so far being applied to anyone, unless I'm completely mistaken. No, at the moment I don't believe I am. So the stewards, I'm sure at some point, will be looking around and trying to see what's going on. By the way, just a quick note here as well. We've got Nopek, who's trying to make a move on in Rubia. So down into turn 1 they go, and Rubia will have no answer to that. Stachecki coming out of the pits while this battle is going on. Now a solid lap behind the race leaders, Nopek. Beautiful move there into turn 1, cleanly done. And Rubia gives him the space, and that'll be the move for P2. Nopek into P2, and Rubia falls back into P3. It was a very, very nice overtake there from the McLaren driver of Nopek.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic move into turn 1. And well done on that one. Nice and clean, just what we like to see. Excellent racing.
Couldn't be more. Now, while this battle continues, we've also got the battle down here that was evolving quite rapidly. It's now turned into a 3-way battle, nearly into a 5-way battle. Benjamin Eck is right on the back of Domokos Keys, and Keys has been slowly reeling in, slowly being dropped, I should say, by Rodriguez. I think they've got some blue flags traffic in between there as well. Nibali still holding onto the back of Benjamin Eck. I'm sure Benjamin Eck will be absolutely stoked with that, considering these two came together at turn 14 on lap 1, which has really, unfortunately, ruined it for both of these drivers. Eck was obviously not at fault for that incident, and Nibali will likely be getting a penalty for that contact. Just a bit too late on the brakes into turn 14 on lap 1 and sent both of them into a bit of a spin. But Eck, of course, will continue, get his head down and continue the race, as will Nibali. So, but both of them with a bit of work to do to get back up to where they were originally in this race. 39 minutes to go. We are 20 minutes through in round 6, and of course I've got to mention it's GT3 Masters, sponsored by Pure Sim Gear here on the FRL channel. Welcome in to everyone in chat. Hope you're having a good day and enjoying. And this is the penultimate round, and oh, that's Benjamin Eck. He's coming into the pit lane, so he's pulled the trigger early. He's the first of that group to pull the trigger, and first of our runners who haven't had a major incident to pull the trigger there. So that could potentially, very potentially, could start a bit of a train of cars coming in for their pit stops. I'd say it's probably a little bit early, but maybe Benjamin Eck thinks, again, hey, look, I want to get some clean air. Let's get in, let's get the pit stop done. We'll run long in this race.
Well, not only Benjamin Eck has made that decision on lap 13, so has Artemenko and Silver Championship leader Omar Rolando Mesa after 13 laps, 20 minutes into the race. So 1/3 race distance completed, and that's 3 drivers all pulled the same strategy. So lap 13, we have 3 drivers in the pits, including championship leader Mesa.
And some penalties now being handed out around the grid. That was a 5-second penalty for the 89 car. 89 car, of course, being Omar Rolando Mesa. So Mesa, unfortunately, has picked up a penalty. I don't know why, for some reason. There we go, that's starting to show around. G. Potter has also picked up a 5-second penalty as well, the 91 car. So my timing boards, I'm sure at some point, will get updated, and we will see those penalties around the grid. Keeping on board again, so this battle has not cooled down at all. It's full of spicy jalapenos at the moment. Nibali has just got himself a drive-through penalty, and that, I suspect, will be for track limits. Big move there, an attempted move by Panchenko on Leinard, nearly managing to get it done into turn 2, but Leinard has been going very, very defensive. A beautiful drive so far. He's had Panchenko within 0.3 of a second for about the whole race distance so far, so has done a fantastic job defensively, is finding places that Lamborghini has the advantage and has been taking advantage of that, keeping an eye, of course, one eye on the mirror in the behind on Panchenko, one eye on the front of the car to see where the next apex is.
Just looking there, it's, so Longdon, currently the top driver, as we can see some more penalties. The number 84 speeding in the pit lane, the number 84 being Nibali as well. So absolute nightmare of a race for Nibali so far. Qualifying right up at the top in the silvers, right into the mix with the pro drivers, but gone absolutely backwards since caught up in a couple of collisions, now picking up a couple of penalties as well. So that puts Longdon in P1, currently P9 overall. Longdon sitting, where is Longdon in the championship? P12 for him, Nigel Longdon, the British driver, the 328 McLaren 720S. He will be over the moon with that so far.
Yeah, I think that's been one of his best results. He's, I'm not sure, maybe you can confirm that for us, but not often do we see Longdon up in the top 10, so excellent to see that driver make it up there. But yes, as you said, for Nibali, that has gone from bad to worse. A good result in qualifying has led to a bit of a disaster in the race, and unfortunately the stop-go penalty and the drive-through, both unforced errors, track limits, and speeding in the pit lane, and that's beside the fact that he's caused some contact with Benjamin Eck on turn 14 and lap 1. So unfortunately there'll probably be another slap on the wrist coming his way. So big learning experience today for the debutant.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, just down in the pit lane again, George, Peter Veers decides to take his mandatory pit stop and tyre change. After 15 laps, 23 minutes of the race, he is in the box in the 2:11. And just having a quick glance to see if any other movers, Nibali back in the pits for his penalty. Benjamin Eck has stopped and returned to track. Stechecki also made his stop. Alan Brown made the earlier stop after damage. I can pretty much guarantee Petrovic has retired from the race. He has not left the pit since lap 7. But no other movers at the minute, but bad to worse for Salvo Nibali.
Oh, and that's a brilliant bit of action going on at the main straight there. A double switch back and a double fake there from Panchenko, trying his absolute best to find the overspeed and get around Leinard, but Leinard with a huge defensive maneuver, pulling all the way over to the left-hand side of the track, completely closes the door, forces Panchenko to do another huge dive to the right-hand side of the track, and wasn't able to be done. Unfortunately, the drive-through has now been cleared for Nibali. And that'll include the stop-go 30 as well, I believe. It might not, actually. We'll double-check on that. But this battle continues at the top here for P4. Might think that's insignificant, but this does matter quite significantly. Around the grid, not too many other battles going on as well, so we'll stay on board with this because Leinard is putting on a defensive masterclass here to keep the likes of Panchenko and Garbi behind. Garbi's just sitting back there going, hey, give me some popcorn, mate. I'll quite happily eat some while I watch this amazing stuff happen in front of me.
Yeah, absolutely. Garbi front row seat for the action just in front. So Garbi currently sat P10 in the championship, 91 points for Garbi in the 221 McLaren. Panchenko P6 for him, currently 131 points, and then Rubia is sitting P3, sitting pretty actually with a lead of 151 points for him. I'm seeing some movement on track there in Rubia. Has he just overtaken Nopek, or is Nopek boxed?
I think Nopek has come into the box, and so has Panchenko. So 2 cars into the box from the top 5 now, and Rubia will be elevated back to P2, Leinard to P3, Garbi to P4, and we did just have a big bit of contact earlier on here. Chris Jones involved in a bit of contact. We'll take a quick look at the replay while the pit stops start to figure themselves out. So here is one of the FRL organisers, Chris Jones, and he does a fantastic job alongside James Williams and Keddy. All of those chaps doing a brilliant, brilliant job. And that is contact there. So who was that? That's one of our newcomers, the 531 car involved in that. So let me try and pull up a name for that. That's Jadubal.
Jadubal.
Yeah, Jadubal or Jadubal. We'll have to figure out exactly how that name is pronounced.
Timothy.
There we go, Timothy. Yeah, some call me Tim, to quote a famous movie that I'm sure most of us like or are totally sick of. It's one or the other, really, isn't it, with that movie?
A personal favourite of mine, could never get bored of it.
Yep, I'm the exact same. So, but we'll have to try and refrain ourselves now from quoting from the rest of it. Leinard here, of course, saying, "I am invincible." All right, I better stop. I better stop, Rob. You take over for a bit while I clear my head of Monty Python jokes.
So Julian Smith into the pits, the 990 vehicle, 17 laps completed, 26 minutes in, and we are 27 coming up to the halfway mark of this 1 hour race. Panchenko returns to track as we see Max Leinard take his stop 18 laps in. Nopek also returning to track. And race leader, Grigory Ivanov, into the pit. So we're going to see some movement around as the drivers start to take their pits. We are coming up to the halfway mark of the race now, and lots of drivers deciding whether to get in the box, change the tyres. No fueling allowed on this race, so they will be stacked to the race. So cars will be getting lighter. Lap times will be coming up. The in-lap of Ivanov seems to be very long, actually. No, it doesn't. That's fine. That's absolutely fine. Excuse me. Who else have we got? Kuzmenko into the pit, as well as Craig Hill, Rodriguez, Cowley, Leinard, and as already mentioned, Ivanov making their stops. So we will see the grid reorder, and I imagine within the next 2 to 3 minutes we will start to see the rest of the drivers taking their stop, and the grid should settle itself back down again.
Too right, and then Rubia will be coming around the final corner here. I'm very keen to see if the pit stop of Ivanov will have triggered that pit stop for Rubia as well. These two were separated by a fair amount on track, and Rubia also needs to launch himself past Nopek, who's also just come out of the pits as well. Nopek just having a little bit of a scrap there with Zach Dahl, with Chris Jones in behind. Managed to get through. That is blue flag traffic. Of course, Ivanov is still ahead of Nopek by 3.6 seconds, so the gap to the lead, relatively speaking, has been maintained. Those at the front now still waiting on their pit stop. So Rubia will be in the pits now, got another 30 or 40 seconds to sit there and wait. We'll be keeping a close eye on that. We've got Garby also in the pits as well. So a lot of the others up the top of the previous order before we had the big switcheroo, now over in the pits. Bespilotov as well comes into the pits. So on board now with Ivanov, and coming around the final corner. Where will Rubia end up coming out? It's still sitting in the pits at this stage, so I don't think it'll be a big leap up the front. That would have been quite something to behold. But the question is, where is Nopek? Nopek's also coming down the main straight. Will Rubia get out ahead, or will he fall behind Nopek? I get the feeling now, just based on what we're seeing, he's going to fall behind, I suspect, isn't he?
You think he's going to fall behind his... average lap time, average pit stop was around the 107s, and that was 109 for him overall, including. So a couple of seconds slower than everybody. Well, quite a number of drivers actually. Ivanov managed to get in and out in a 107. And it was a 109 for Rubia, so losing time in the pits. Running that little bit longer hasn't worked thus far, but towards the end of the race might pay dividends if the tyre does tend to drop off, but I can't see that happening too much this race, George.
That's right. Leinard now in behind Chris Jones. Oh, sorry, that was Rubia, sorry, in behind Chris Jones, flashing the lights, saying, hey, time for you to pull out the way, blue flags. And is that Panchenko with a big move? Yes, it is. Oh, and it's not gone particularly well for Panchenko. He's touched the inside there of Leinard. Leinard managed to survive, but Panchenko is in the gravel area, in the marbles, and spun himself around with a huge lunge into turn 8. And this is after their pit stop as well, so that damage will be carried to the end of the race, now sitting in behind the 56 car. Crikey, that's unfortunate. Speeding in the pit lane for Thompson, the 55 car down in P23, so that will be his stop go 30 for that car. Super unfortunate. Crikey, that was a huge moment there for the 39 car. We've got that on a replay. So let's take a look at this big send as they come through turn 7. Rob.
Yeah, just looking on board now on the helicopter cam. We're making our way down to turn 7 now. It looked like he was going to leave the door open, but then cut back to the inside, and the gap that was there just closed up right in front of him, and contact was made. Turned the car around, as you said. One lucky member, or one lucky participant, manages to get away, which was Leinard, but the other car turned around into the litter and falling back for Pachenko, so he'll be a bit disappointed with that one. Was there a move there, Jude? It's hard to tell from the replay. The door did seem to be open.
It is usually open because you open that corner to do a late apex there. So it usually is left open, but it rapidly closes, and unless you're side by side, in the braking zone, it really will just, it will close up. And sadly for Panchenko there, it was not really going to stay open long enough to get him through, because he was just a little bit too far back, in my opinion, to really make that happen.
Yeah, certainly too far back. If you the side by side and the gaps there, go for it, absolutely. But yeah, a little bit too far back maybe. well, not maybe, for sure. And yeah, that door just shut. Fastest lap of the race, it's the 4:06. That is Ivanov. Currently sat in P2, closing down on Nick Veldman, who is P1 at the moment, but yet to stop, so that will fall away. 21 laps for him. So going well over the 50% mark is Nico Veldman. So Ivanov back into P1 realistically, as Veldman will take his stop shortly. So how many seconds there? 4 seconds over Nopek. So yeah, that pit stop did really do Nopek some harm. He's lost a couple of seconds on Ivanov, but with Ivanov's pace this evening, George, I can't see anybody getting anywhere near that. Bar a mistake or some back markers, traffic, I think Ivanov has got this one pretty much sewn up.
That's right. Bar any mistake. Of course, maybe we'll go on board and try and apply a commentary curse. No, of course we won't. It's just another fastest lap, of course, as well. 1 minute 30.752. So Ivanov is flying on fresh tyres. This battle here starting to evolve between Tassin, Benjamin Eck, and Longdon, who's currently holding on to P10. So this actually could be a potential top 10 finish for Benjamin Eck, which would be a great end to a good recovery drive from the Mercedes driver. Of course, he does have Tassin in behind as well, so he does have a bit of work to do, and it's certainly not over for him yet. Chris Jones still to pit as well. He's got Garby now just closing in on him. Leinart's just got ahead. Veldman now comes into the pits, so Veldman will serve that pit stop, and we'll drop back a little bit further on the field. And a quick update on our Pro Championship leader in the standings, not in the race, is Stachecki, who's managed to get back up to P14. I've yet to see any penalties applied for some of the contact that he was involved in and caused earlier on in this race. So not 100% sure if the stewards will be looking into that in a live capacity today. I think just based on what we've seen, that's probably unlikely. By the way, Alan Brown has gone off. So Alan Brown is off. We will try and take a look at that if we can, but it looks to be an unforced error. That'll elevate Fedotov and Saberla up into the top spots there, and I believe that's Nopek, who's coming through now just behind him. Yes, it is.
Yeah, Nopek making his way up to that the traffic there. Just looking up and down the field, George, there's a couple of interesting battles still brewing. You mentioned Benjamin Eck there, and I was looking at the lap times for him over the last few laps, and I think he will be over the moon with his recovery drive so far, and if he can keep the pressure on, Longdon just in front, 0.5 of a second behind at the moment. If he can make his way into that top 10, I think he'll be very happy with his recovery drive. Unforced from him, unfortunate collisions earlier on in the race has pushed him back down the order, but he's lapping a very, very decent time at the moment.
Ooh, great little move there up the inside. Tassin has stuck it up the inside at turn 10. Beautiful, beautiful move there, and goes on through on Eck. That was absolutely stunning and happened in the blink of an eye, Rob.
Yeah, so I'm getting slightly delayed footage at this end, George, but yeah, so my reaction wasn't delayed for me, but it was certainly delayed for you. That was an absolutely phenomenal move from Tassin. Well done to him. Wow, yeah, as we were talking about Ben's recovery drive, Tassin was like, oh, they're talking about him again. Let's show him what I can do. Sends an absolutely glorious one up the inside, gets the move done. We can see Nico Veldman now massive, or dropping back down into his respective position after taking his stop from the lead of the race. So Ivanov now nearly 5 seconds to the good. Nopek in P2, and Rubia driving a solid drive so far in P3. Leinart further few seconds back for him. Garby starting to pile a little bit of pressure in P5. That gap is closing a little over the last couple of laps, and Jones in P7 also trying to put some pressure on Cowley in the Ferrari for P6. There's a battle potentially brewing in those areas. A bit further down the grid, closest drivers I can see together at the moment, and we haven't spoke about this one yet, but Nikkonen started to put a bit of pressure on Potte in the 91 Aston Martin. Yes, the 24th and 25th. Rolano Mesa, George, down in P26 for him, current silver championship leader.
That's right, and we had a drive-through penalty for track limits for the 336 car. That has now been served. Panchenko nearly had a moment there with Chris Jones trying to get past, as Chris Jones now does come into the pit, so he's the last on the track to come in for a pit stop. He's going to be doing a, hopefully, very, very speedy final lap, final stint here, so with 21 minutes and 30 seconds remaining, he will have plenty of tyres at his disposal, but will be dropping quite significantly down the grid to begin that run. You're absolutely right. A few battles starting to evolve now as things come together. Garby now within a second of Leinard. We were looking at that battle just a moment ago, and on the rear camera view here of Leinard, once again, Garby is continuing to find some time. So this battle will probably go all the way to the end. This, of course, is a battle for P4. The top three at the moment very well solidified in their positions. Ivanov 5 seconds ahead of Nopeg. Nopeg 6.5 seconds, I should say, ahead of Rubia. And Leinard about 5 seconds behind that battle. So unless something major happens to that with our leader, of course, being Ivanov, just navigating a bit of blue flagged, not black flag traffic, blue flagged traffic there, but a very dominant drive from Ivanov. And this, I believe, a win here with where Stachecki is currently sitting, which is P12, will elevate Ivanov well up into P1, leading into the last round of the season. So this is absolutely what the doctor ordered for Ivanov, a recovery from him, because early on in the season, as we all remember, Rob, Ivanov was having a bit of an issue. And by a bit of an issue, I mean penalties, and bad results.
Yeah, did one of the best of starts of the season for Ivanov. The first race, looking at the statistics, at 28th, P28 in round one. His worst event so far this season. P3, round three, not a pretty. Excuse me there, chat. Just while clearing my throat. Round three, not a pretty result either. P13 on that one, but then back-to-back wins for Ivanov, and looking like he's going to take a third. He's really starting to pile the pressure on Stachecki, and with a nightmare of a race for Stachecki, points as they stand, I do believe that will be enough to promote himself into P1 for the last round of the season. As you rightly put, that's exactly where you want to be coming into the last round of the season as well.
Yes, ideally you do lead the round into the last season. Of course, we get that points difference over Stachecki, and things have gone, of course, a little bit from bad to worse here for Stachecki, because he's picked up a 15-second penalty for his troubles and the collisions he's caused earlier on. Some stewards now handing out some penalties, so we can see Jadabal and Thompson also picking up 10 seconds. Brofton picking up a 10-second penalty as well. So the stewards starting to click their pens and sort things out on track. Veldman's just got ahead of Domokos Keese as the cameramen do eventually sort themselves out. So Keese has had a bit of a disaster as well. The 55 car now picking up a 15-second penalty for causing a collision, and that is going to be another one for Thompson. So I think he's got 25 seconds. Yes, he does. So a huge amount of penalties there for Thompson. I think we might have mistaken his car for Stachecki on a couple of occasions earlier on in the race, because
I was just thinking the same there. Yeah, I was just thinking exactly the same.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see. Oh, Bespilatov in P11's picked up a drive-through for track limits, so it's all kicking off in the last 20 minutes of this race. 18 to go. Crikey, Rob. I think we're in for quite a battle, and Garby is now on the back of Leinard, so they've rapidly caught up to each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Garby doing an excellent, nearly 0.5 of a second faster last time round, and that gap is ever increasing, just a couple of tenths of a second. Another battle that I've been watching quite closely is Tassin. Since getting a move done on Benjamin Eck, he's really started to pile the pressure on Longdon. He got within a couple of tenths of a second, dropped back a little bit over the last lap, a couple of tenths of seconds slower last time round. I just wanted to update some of the guys in chat as well. I know some will be familiar, but some others may not. FRL do have their own live marshals as well, so as you've seen those penalties coming in, that will be somebody reviewing the footage and applying those penalties during the race. So if you're wondering why those penalties were so late, it's because there is a team of guys at FRL that will be independently reviewing those footages and applying penalties as they see fit. That's why we saw quite a few penalties all coming through. Stachecki now 30 seconds of penalties with Bespilatov with a drive-through.
Yeah, that's right. And Rodriguez has had a huge moment on the exit, nearly spun it round. They've got James Williams there. He's been lapped once now in this race, being blue flagged for these two. But the battle continues up the top here for 4th position. Best Bilotov comes into the pits, as you said, to serve that drive-through. For those of you who don't know, you've got 3 laps to serve the drive-through, so you look at the optimum time to do it, but don't run any longer than that because it will be a huge stop-go that you will be given, stop-go 30, if you do not serve that drive-through. So track limits here is something to keep an eye on. It's very, very tricky to keep the car off on the circuit for that full 60 minutes of the race, but most on track have done that successfully today so far. Some will have picked up a couple. Some will be using them tactically. They're often referred to as speed tokens. So sometimes you can get away with it. You use a couple of speed tokens on your third. You do, once you have 3, your next one gets you a drive-through penalty. So some do use them tactical. And there's another drive-through. And that's Panchenko. Oh dear. So Panchenko now has done it.
That one could be, yeah, that one's not a pleasant one for Pachenko. That could be important in the championship because in and around him it is very, very, very close. Benjamin Eck being the one that's not having the best of races this evening with what's happened earlier on in the race, but he is inside the top 10, and Benjamin Eck on 127 points, Pachenko on 131 points, P6, P7 respectively. That's going to be quite impactful, and Ben there will probably be looking at that leaderboard going, okay then, here we go.
Yep, that's right. Yeah, Benjamin Eck will be very keen for this because I think he's well within range to get ahead of Pachenko. We'll see as they do come around the last corner there. We're just on board with another fight at the moment. So Pachenko has come out. He's immediately run wide. I don't think that'll be another track warning there, but here we go. The updated timesheets. No, he's just ahead of Benjamin Eck. No, Benjamin Eck is in fact ahead. Okay, so the timing board's playing a few tricks on us there, Benjamin Eck. So Panchenko comes out in P14. Benjamin Eck now up into P9. Well, that is great stuff for Benjamin Eck. He's having actually gone from a terrible day to a pretty decent day out.
Yeah, and he's got still got certainly plenty of pace in the bag. A little bit slower last time round, but doing some excellent lap times throughout the race. He'll be on the hunt. He'll be looking to chase Tassin and Longden. He's next down the road there in a very close contested battle at the moment. Longden currently leading in the silver category, Tassin just a few tenths of a second behind. That battle has been brewing, George, lap after lap. It closes up a little bit and then it moves away a little bit, but I don't think it is certainly not done. We've still got 14 minutes left of this race, but Benjamin Eck will want to make moves as Longden and Tassin do it. Is that Pachenko going backwards? That's Pachenko going backwards. What's happening to Pachenko?
We'll try and get an eye on that as soon as possible.
I was in the pits again.
No, I don't think he is. He's come through the pits straight. I think that might be the timing board just updating itself and getting it sorted out. Q knows things, unfortunately, but he's currently out on track. So no pit stop, no extra pit stop there. By the way, Garby is having a little bit of a move on Leinard at this point. Leinard goes defensive once again. Into turn 8 they go. Good line there taken by Leinard to keep that Lamborghini ahead of the McLaren of Garby, and Garby has got nothing to do there. He can't get past at all. Another 5-second penalty for the 144 car. That's Tchecki. Now up to 35 seconds of penalty. So I think we probably were right. He was involved in all that contact early on because he's now at 50 seconds of penalty. Another 15-second penalty for Tchecki. It's gone from bad to worse to a disaster to what I suspect is going to be another qualifying ban for next time, because there's another 15-second penalty being applied. 65 seconds of penalties for Tchecki. I've never seen a penalty that high for a driver. That is incredible.
Yeah, that's an astronomical amount of penalties being applied to Tchecki. So we were on board for a couple of those incidents. Maybe as we were looking up and down the grid, we missed many more. But 65 seconds of penalties being applied, which is absolutely huge. Just an update on Panchenko, George. There was a stop. There was a second stop from Panchenko. Was he one that collected a drive-through penalty? It was a short stop. Yeah, it's 30 seconds, so that must have been a drive-through.
Oh yes, you're right.
So that was served, which will explain the quite significant drop in positions down into P14. He was driving up in around, I think it was a P6 at the time. Yeah, dropped quite a few places, but that'll be for the penalty, sir, so that will make sense. Ivanov currently out in front. Bit of traffic in front now, but nearly 5.5 seconds to the good. Welcoming King D42 to the chat. Drive quicker. I would challenge you to jump on and drive with these guys, the King D42.
And I would also challenge you to drive fast enough to clear a 65-second penalty and maintain position in P10. That would be an incredible thing to do. By the way, we've just seen the battle between Leinart and Garby. They've just gone through a bit of blue flag traffic. Chris Jones did a very good job of getting out of the way, noticed it at the last second. There was some traffic coming through and managed to get out of the way sensibly, so didn't get involved in that. The Burler, who's in front of these two, was running wide as well, and now goes wide to let these two through. Garby just, continuing to stay on Leinart and says, hey, look, I'm still here. Oh dear, Burler, you need to back out of that. You are a blue flag bit of traffic. Do not challenge down onto the inside. So the Burler there, just a little bit too eager to maintain the position, has actually ended up letting Chris Jones through, which I believe is for position, due to the fact that he got compromised trying to fight Garby into turn 3 and 4. Not a good idea as a blue flag bit of traffic, and unfortunately he has paid the price for that. Leinart continues his charge out the front, 0.7 of a second separating Garby and Leinart at the moment, so a great battle on board with these two. The rest of the field is looking very spread out, except for the likes of Rodriguez, who's on the rear bumper of Veldman. They were the other way round just a few moments ago, now switching around with Veldman back into P11. They're about 2.5 seconds down the road from Stachecki, but of course Veldman will be up into P10 as it stands right now, because Stachecki's penalty is going to put him pretty much dead last.
Yeah, 65 seconds of penalty. They are going to be, he's going to be dropping right to the back of the grid. Just really quickly, Deadline in the chat. Thank you ever so much for the 100 bits. I'm sure FRL will be over the moon with that. Thank you so much. All the contributions do go back into the channel to try and provide excellent entertainment across multiple platforms, multiple nights of the evening. So thank you very much for those bits, Deadline.
And we've also got the King D42, so welcome to the chat, of course. Oh, I can't drive, what's a car? Yes, fair question, to be honest. And also asking who are our commentators tonight. Well, in the box tonight you have myself, George Cook, and Rob Barker, bringing you all the action live from track on behalf of 00 Raven Comms and on behalf of the Formula Racing League. Here in the Pure Sim Gear GT3 Masters, it's the penultimate round, round 6 at Valencia. We've got 60 minutes of racing with 51 minutes through at the moment, 9 minutes remaining on the clock. And of course, next week is going to be the last round, going to the legendary Nürburgring to round out the series. And yeah, I mean, unfortunately for Stachecki, we were looking to see if he could make a recovery here and continue a close run with Ivanov at the top of the championship standings. At this stage, I don't see how he's going to be able to hold on to that P1 position in the standings, Rob. I just don't see it.
Oh, absolutely not. Ivanov is driving like a man on fire. This 5 seconds to the good out in front. Pretty much led every lap of the race, albeit the pits and the early battle. Pretty much every lap of the race, Ivanov setting lap after lap. Superb drive from him. And as we said, probably about 40 minutes ago, with 8 minutes remaining, be it a mistake, Ivanov has got this one in the bag. We don't want to talk about too much because we do know that I've got myself into trouble a couple of times this season, George, by praising the driver. Oh, massive contact there, George.
Yeah, that's right. So that was Nopek trying to get through on Mesa. Mesa is down in P26 and is blue flagged. Nopek going for a bit of a send, and Mesa not really giving him any room on that blue flag bit of traffic. Could have been a bit more patient, could have Nopek been, but tried to do the send, and unfortunately Mesa was already turning in at that point in the last corner and made contact. So Nopek spinning around the car of Mesa, and that's very unfortunate for Mesa there, who was leading our Silver Championship. So just quickly running through the top 3 for each of the categories. We've got both pro and silver categories in here today. Lovely to have this big combined grid. Things were thinning out in both of the races, so I'm glad we ended up with a combined grid here. I believe we've still got about 35 on track. Maybe you can confirm that in just a second, Rob. But Ivanov will lead us away in the race, currently leading the championship. Well, he will be leading the championship after this race, leading the race as well. And then we've got Nopek in P2, just involved with that contact we saw just before. And then Rubia in P3, all 3 of these separated by a fairly large gap. Garby and Leinard still battling it out at the minute. But currently nothing really happening there. So that's your pro category. And then in your silver category, Longden has come out of nowhere with this McLaren. And in the 328 car, he is solidly on for a P1 in the silver category. But he does have Tassin in tow. So in Tosin, no, I can't make a joke there. Longden and Tassin in a bit of a tussle here between each other for the lead of the silver category in this race, but they are not leading the championship standings overall for the silver category. And Jay Smith down there in P15. Hill and Pithaviers, who we did see have some good runs earlier on, not in contention at the moment. So that's as it stands in both the categories.
Yeah, it's been an absolutely phenomenal performance, particularly between Longden and Tassin. They have genuinely been battling side by side to and from all races. We are very, very quickly approaching the last 5 minutes of the race. If there are moves to be made for that P1 silver, they're going to have to be made pretty soon. And just to confirm, George, we do have 5 retirees of the race. So Jadubal retiring after 27 laps. And we have Thompson, who's retired after 24 laps. Alan Brown retiring early on. Nibala, I think he's given up the goose on that one after numerous penalties. He has pulled into the pit and retired the car. And Petrovic was our earliest retiree after 7 laps, after huge contacts early on in the race. So that brings us to 33 drivers still on track.
It's still a very good number.
Absolutely, yeah, still a brilliant grid.
Absolutely. We've just been on board and watching the little battle here between Sucheki and Ek, and I don't think Ek is going to be keen to challenge us at all, because when you've got someone running up behind you who you know is probably quicker than you overall, who's also holding 65 seconds of penalties, you go, you know, I'm just going to let that person through. I'm not going to challenge for that. Sucheki will try and go defensive here, but I don't think Ek is going to have any desire to get involved with any kind of contact or any kind of aggressive driving with Sucheki at this stage of the race. I certainly wouldn't be if I was staring down a 65-second penalty car, and with the guarantee, of course, that you'll end up ahead of them anyway at the end of the race. The focus for Ek is now going to be on Veldman, who's reeled in the gap quite significantly to 1.6 seconds. The battle continues at the front for Leinard and Garby. You've just got through some blue flag traffic there, nice and cleanly once again. Garby's still looking for a move here. He's got 4 minutes to make something happen. These two have been basically racing each other since lap 1. They did at one point have Penchenko in here, but with the drive-through that Penchenko ended up getting, unfortunately that put him well out of contention for the race. Nopek and Rubia continue to hold on to P2, P3 respectively. And Rubia, by the way, is actually catching up to the back of Nopek. So Rubia has got a potential chance here, and try and catch a view on the broadcast cameras. We can see 2 of them. I think that's Nopek going through a whole bunch of blue flag traffic as it stands right now. Rubia will have to navigate that too, but that could have slowed down Nopek quite a bit. And now the gap between him and Rubia is just around 2.5 seconds. So Nopek does clear the blue flag traffic, and Rubia starts to clear the blue flag traffic as well. There's a McLaren going very, very wide there. I believe that is one with a quite significant penalty. But the battle I really want to stay on board with right now is Lionard and Garby, and Rubia flashing lights saying, hey, you guys, your blue flag, get out of my way. I'm on an absolute charge and I want that P2 position.
Yeah, it's coming up to quite a significant amount of traffic now. That gap between Garby and Lionard down to 2.5 tenths of a second on pit wall. It looks significantly closer than that on the live footage. But yeah, we are into 2 and just coming up to 2.5 minutes remaining, 2 minutes 40 remaining on this. We're going to get a couple more racing laps, and this battle is definitely not over yet for positions 4 and 5.
That's right. It's just knocked on 7 p.m. here out in Spain. Of course, it's a little bit later than that in the UK, but also a little bit earlier than that here in New Zealand, which is where I'm actually hailing from today. But nonetheless, it is getting a little bit late on that. The sun's starting to set here in Spain, 2 minutes 13 remaining in this race. The track temperature is slightly cooling, now down to 27 degrees. James Williams gets all the way out of Rubia, lets him go on through. Nopek has actually started to open that gap up just a little bit, but there's one more car from Rubia to get past before he can make a charge after Nopek. So maybe just a little bit too much work here, unless there's a mistake from Nopek. Unfortunately, I don't think there's going to be anything to do there today. And oh, wow. Who was that behind Garby? I don't think that was Cowley, but the blue flag bit of traffic nearly going into the back of Garby. And Garby keeping it very, very close, right on the rear bumper of Leinart. That actually compromised him there through turn 4 and turn 5. He'll have to make a bit of a charge back. It just looks a bit better under brakes, does Garby at this point. And Leinart obviously just trying to make sure he makes the most of the exit and makes the most of that Lamborghini's very, very quick speed off the exits of the corners. The McLaren does not have the same speed off the line, does have a bit better top speed and is much, much better through the apex of the corner, able to get that power down just a little bit sooner usually than the Lamborghini, but the Lamborghini will negate that with its power and torque out of the corner. So Leinart maximizing the traits of the car to his advantage, and all of that is really helping him to keep Garby behind. So some brilliant, brilliant racing between these two. By the way, we've had another track through limits there. I can't remember what car that was for. Maybe you spotted that, Rob.
It's the 792, which is Chris Jones in the Porsche.
That is unfortunate for him, one of the FRL organisers that does race here in the GT3 Masters. You can see him just in the background there in that Porsche. Garby here, he's within spitting distance once again, doesn't decide on a move, so Garby is just biding his time here, being really patient. That is track limits though, so he'll get a warning for that, will Garby. Don't pick up, for goodness sake, do not pick up a track limit drive-through here in the last 10 seconds of this race, Garby. That would be a disaster for you. P5 is a very, very respectable time. And Pithaviers there, the 211 car, picking up 15 seconds of penalty. The 531 car picking up 5 seconds of penalty. The Pithaviers, really, things have gone from bad to worse for him as well.
Yeah, the 531 car is Timothy Jadubal, who has actually retired, so still picking up penalties even though he's in the pits. So that's really unfortunate for him. Yeah, he'll be at the back of the grid. Probably, yeah.
Oh, Leinart, so the
day.
172 car, hold on, this is big news here. Leinart has picked up a 10-second penalty. I'm not quite sure what that was for. Maybe you spotted that as well, Rob. I've got eyes on too many things at the moment, but
causing a collision.
It was causing a collision. We don't know when that's happened, though. I don't know which collision that was involved in. Maybe involved in early in the race, but back on board, of course, with Ivanov, because that situation between Leinart and Garby has sorted itself out. Now, with that penalty being applied, Ivanov takes the win of this race for round 6 and takes the championship lead for the GT3 Masters. It's been a masterclass today from Ivanov, once again getting his championship season back on track. Nopek takes P2, P3 goes to Enrubia, and unfortunately, commiserations there for Leinart. He's been gutted because he will lose out all the way down to P7, I believe, and Garby will be elevated up into P4. Very sensible for keeping it on the track and out of trouble all the way through the race. Cowley will take P6, P5 though after the penalty applied. Longdon P7, Tassin. Those two, Longdon and Tassin, will take P1 and P2 in the silver category today. Great drive from those two and in the top 10. Excellent stuff from the silver category drivers. Wow, Rob, that was a brilliant, brilliant little race. It really, really was. And yeah, honestly, absolutely spectacular.
Super interesting race. Some brilliant drives out there. Longdon will be over the moon with that result, and a fantastic race with Tassim, pretty much side by side all race. Gregory Ivanov, take a bow, sir, because that was absolutely phenomenal. From the lights out 1 hour race to the checkered flag, absolutely flawless from him. Couple of nightmare drives for a few of the drivers, lots of penalties being issued, notably Stachecki with a 65-second penalty. I don't think I've ever seen one that big. I think he'll be kicking himself tonight. Championship leader, of course, will find himself demoted pretty much to the back of the grid. which means race winner Ivanov in the 406 Ferrari will take that championship lead, leading into the last event of the series. We will be back next week, of course, for that one, and I hope you guys will be here to join us for it, because it's going to get very hot for the last race of the season, George.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Rob. And of course, yeah, big switch up in the championship here. Stachecki having an absolute nightmare. We'll see what happens to him next week in terms of his ability to race or even to qualify at this stage. We don't know. We will find out later on, so keep an eye out for our next broadcast, which, as you can see, will be the final round of this season, which is at the Nürburgring on September 21st. Make sure you tune in for that. It's going to be a very exciting race to see who will take home a beautiful pair of pure sim gear sim racing gloves, which is the victory prize put up for all the category winners. A little bit of a switch round maybe in the Silver Championship as well. So lots to keep an eye on in the GT3 Masters as we head towards the final round of the season in Season 7. Rob, before we jump off, I'd like to say a big thanks to everyone in
Season
chat.
10.
What?
Season 10.
Season 10. Did I say season something else, did I?
7.
Oh, I said season 7. I said, okay, so season 10, 7 rounds in this season. Oh, crikey. There we go. That's the lack of morning coffee coming in for me, unfortunately.
It is a very early morning for you, George.
It is, but, you know, it is what it is at the end of the day. So, Rob, some final words and stuff before we do round out the stream today. And, of course, a big thanks to everyone in chat today. You've been absolutely spectacular.
Our chat has been absolutely phenomenal. It's great to see some very familiar names in the chat supporting the drivers, and some, I don't know if you got a chance to flick through the comments, but there's some absolutely wonderful comments about the commentary, which is always absolutely quite heartwarming to see, George. But yeah, I feel like the guys felt like we were doing a very good job, and I cannot thank the guys enough for joining us this evening, which has been yet another fantastic race. Driver of the day for you, George?
Oh, it's a tricky one, to be completely fair with you. I do want to give it to Ivanov, another superfluous performance, perfect weekend. You get qualifying pole 1, and then you also take the race win. But overall, I think actually my driver of the day today is going to go to Benjamin Eck, because being involved in that early contact, had a good qualifying, early contact, got spun around by Nibali, and then a good recovery drive to finish well within the top 10. So my driver of the day today is going to go to Benjamin Eck. And how about yourself?
As you know, I do get really invested with the silver category.
Yes.
And best result of the season for Longdon. Fantastic drive from him, and a very, very close fought battle with himself and Tassin. And Longdon comes out on top in the 328 McLaren. He will be my driver of the day.
Fantastic. So thank you to you, Rob Barker, for being in the commentary box today. You've done a fantastic job as always, and always a pleasure to be up here calling all the action with you. So looking forward to our final round next week, and that will round out the season 10. And we got it right this time. That's fantastic. But folks, that will be it for today's stream. Big thank you to the FRL organisers. They've put on such a fantastic season so far. Thank you to all the teams and the drivers, and thank you, of course, to all of you in chat for all the subs, all the follows, and all the chat messages during this race. I hope you've all had a fantastic time and enjoyed. Have a fantastic weekend out there. Of course, big thank you to everyone from here in the comments box, myself, George Cook, and Rob Barker on behalf of 00 Raven Comms. We'll see you next week for the season finale. Take care, stay safe, have a fantastic weekend, and we will, of course, see you next time. Good evening, good night, and goodbye.